Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sinkfield Cup 2022 edition. This is a recap of the second round of the event, the Sinkfield Cup. Every single year is one of the world's strongest chess tournaments as they try to invite everybody from the world top 10 list. This year we have a wild card by the name of Hans Niemann. Now, this video is called what it's called because, well, you're about to find out. In fact, I don't really have to talk and introduce this any longer. Here we go, round number 2. Now, Magnus is the guy winning the tournament. To the surprise of the entire chess world. But he has 1 point out of 1. Okay, he won in the first round. He sits down for game number 2. He's playing Levan Aronian. And, you know, that's a very typical opening here. Now, Magnus here plays a move that I've actually played before, so obviously I inspired him. He's played it himself as well, but I inspired him. Also, I'm recording this recap late in the evening, and you know my late evening recaps are pretty nutty, so get ready for a lot of jokes. He plays the Bogo Indian, which is only one letter removed from the Bozo Indian. Like, what are you even doing? On a serious note, there are many moves here for black, but traditionally Magnus has played this. He's played this about 7 or 8 times in his career, and never in classical chess. Never that I saw, like when he was like a, you know, when he was a real player, like 2800. Anything below 2800, you don't know how to play chess. So yeah, and then Levon plays bishop d2. We have takes. Now, taking by black is a little bit peculiar, and all I mean by that is, like, the main line in many of these positions, black plays like a5, you know, or black plays like queen e7, or some way of defending this and trying to get in. No, he just trades and, you know, puts his knight. And both sides develop e3. Levon plays rook c1. And here Magnus, again, has a choice. He can play rook d8, which is sort of one of the reasons you put your queen here. He can play b6, bishop b7. He can play knight bd7. But Magnus himself also plays a very solid move. And I can't help but feel he played it because somehow he didn't think Levon was going to play this with white. Because, like, the burden of proof in chess is white plays an opening, black plays a line, black tries to equalize. But, you know, this is just a very, very decent and solid variation. And Magnus plays dc4, which is not a very popular move. It's not popular because you sort of just surrender the center. But I guess Magnus just assumed, you know, Levon would maybe play more solidly than aggressively. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to bait Levon into creating some complications. Levon took on c5. So he didn't castle. He got his queen hit. He slid his queen out of the way. And white is forever a little bit better here because black is just lacking in development. Black needs a couple of moves to catch up. But if you look at the structure, it's A, B, E, F, G, H on both sides, right? So they've traded their D and C pawns. So knight c6, bishop b3, and now anywhere I move my knight, I'm going to be hitting your queen. So I have ideas of moving it here or here. So Magnus has a choice. He can move his queen there. He can move his queen back to where it was, or he can play queen h5. All of these moves are like sort of interchangeable. Like queen f5 also is interesting, but although it kind of runs into like maybe some stuff over here. Queen a5 is by far the most solid because it is the most flexible move. And it's sort of like out of the way of everything. Queen h5 is fine, but it's, you know, white is just going to still play rook fd1. So we have queen c4. Queen c4 is unnecessary. Like, white here should probably play rook fd1. The rook trade only benefits white, who just dominates the file. But Levon plays this, and that move sort of induces knight e5. So now we have a knight trade. Like, he forces a simplifying move out of black. And then he reroutes his bishop, which is a very interesting idea. Bishop d1, bishop f3. But Magnus attacks the queen instead, which is worth more than a pawn. And then plays b6, which, again, this looked good. But you can play b6 by hitting the queen and going here. So now black has no weaknesses at all. And it's just an uber solid position. So Magnus either here has to, like, risk everything or just trade. And then trade. And then trade. And then, what are we, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, this is like, what are we doing? Like, you know, the best analogy that I can give you, this doesn't really happen in any sort of sports except like fighting, right? Like mixed martial arts. If you know a guy is a wrestler, right? Some people get a bad, a bad reputation for being a wrestler, being a boring fighter. You know, right now Adesanya, you know, he has kind of a point fighting style. It seems more than a knockout style. Adesanya is not a wrestler, but he sort of gets a little bit of a, oh, he's like a boring, but what is this? I mean, this is not really Magnus's fault. I mean, when you play black, you get a game like this is an hour at the office. I'm I'm not really disappointed, you know, for Levon or for Magnus, but like games like this really just make me feel like 2900 is just never gonna happen. I mean, like, what was this? You know what I mean? I get it. A draw with black is good. Now we live to fight another day with white. But I don't know. This is I didn't want this. Do you want this? You really want this? I mean, anyway, I'm kind of disappointed. Not in really either of the players. Just I don't know. Just chess is sometimes this happens and it sucks. You know, guy plays a line, guy doesn't expect a line, guy plays a solid variation, game is drawn. Now, next game that I have for you. Don't leave, by the way. I know that game was boring, but there are some very exciting games in this recap. Trust me. I know, like, listen, if you leave this video, then you are just justifying putting Magnus on all the thumbnails. I'm just telling you, right? Doesn't that, like, you get on my case, oh, you put a thumbnail on everything. I don't know why you turned British in the middle of that complaint. Like, that game was boring, but let's feature, oh god, a Berlin. Guys, I'm sorry. It's hard being the chess YouTuber who makes all the games of the round in his recap. Because I gotta feature this. Oh, God, it's the Berlin endgame. It's the line. The Berlin. Okay, but fun fact about this line. All of this happened recently against MVL. Do you remember? No, because you don't pay attention? Oh, you do pay attention. You just don't remember. Yeah. So the game that MVL played against Fabiano Caruana actually went very similar like this. It was like 92, and then some other line like Bishop G3 or something. But in this game, MVL plays Knight D4. So he doesn't play the same way he did against Fabiano in that rapid game. And then we have this interesting reroute. Now G5, right? Bringing the rook up, centralizing. We have a trade. We have this. And now white sacrifices his e-pawn in order to win the pawn on C7. Up until this point has been featured in a game, and I think they both knew that. And the craziest part is, according to my database, it was featured in what's known as a correspondence game, meaning the players, don't play live. It's like engine-backed analysis. So MVL just does what you do in a Berlin. You play 22 moves of theory and go for a plus 0.13 advantage. And the problem is that Wesley knows the exact way to equalize. He plays his bishop out and goes here. Like, black has a microscopically low. Wait, that's not what I meant to say. Now I did not mean to say the word low. I meant to say microscopically worse position than white. I don't know why I said that word. Whatever. You know, now you can clip that. You know, you can clip me saying microscopically, you know, overlay it on, you know, whatever you want to do. Anyway, black has a microscopically slightly worse position than white. Why? Bad structure. Doesn't really matter though, because Wesley beelines for an endgame where he's down a pawn, but it's like holdable. Like, top level chess is so stupid sometimes. It's not. It's like actually brilliant. Like, you know what I mean? Scientifically, it's brilliant. Black plays 30 something moves of prep and gets a pawn down endgame, but it's a draw. That's insane. That's nuts. These dudes literally saw. You know what I think? I think the only way to make classical chess more interesting, because it's going to have problems for a long time, I think the only way to by the way, he didn't even play it. Like, that's how solved this endgame is the fact that there's no point even playing this. It's a draw. Isn't that crazy? Like, you would play this because you're like, well, it's 3-on-2. No, they already know. So I think we should ban certain openings. That's my hot take. If I change one thing, I think we should change it. You cannot play the Berlin at the top level. You can't. You're just not allowed. Can't do it. Well, Levy, that's stupid, you know, because what about tournament situations? Sure, I get it. I get it. Honestly, I understand. But I'm just like, God, like, chess is so hard at the highest level. Anyway, we don't have to change anything, but sometimes it makes for boring recaps. Now, it's time for 3 absolutely epic games. You ready for this? I'm ready for this. Let's have a sip of water. Everybody, pause what you're doing. Bring it back here. I know you're watching me in another tab while you're like finishing homework or something, you know, because you want an update. Shout out to the people doing homework but watching the recap. You know, I watch some YouTubers as well. You know, I like to watch sports talk channels and podcasts. Like, I like to listen to, you know, Charles Barkley, Chael Son, and Ariel Helwani. Those are my guys. They don't know they're my guys, but they're my guys. And I just like have them on in the background. I like Undisputed. I like to watch RDC World, but their videos are really fast, so you kind of have to watch them. Anyway, I like on the screen. Anyway, all right, here we go. Fabiano Caruana. It's a Petrov defense. Oh boy, but the Petrov still has some intricate and nuances in it. Now, this line, all the way up until right here, was played in the World Championship match between a guy named Magnus Carlsen and a guy named Fabiano Caruana, but the guy named Fabiano Caruana happened to be playing the black pieces in that match and in that game he played the move c5. He played c5, got a very interesting position, and just in general, black really just fires all the pawns forward here. It's a very complicated game. In this game, Lanier plays rook e8, which is a move. And here, the most common move, 95% of the games go rook e1. Fabiano plays h3. The point of h3 is to play the move g4, okay? And it's very rare, very, very rare move. Lanier plays the best move with black. We have g4, queen a5. Very aggressive, attacking the pawn on a2. a3 defense. Lanier once again plays the best move, which is d5. Advancing 2 pawns now in the center and looking for this, and maybe bishop e6. All right, Fabiano plays c4 himself, offering a queen trade. It's bad for black to trade. I'm not going to show you why. Yes, I am. Otherwise, you're going to get mad at me. Well, that other guy I watched for the recap video showed me why this is bad. Well, this is why it's bad, because knight g5. So, trading the queens removes a very potent threat in black's position, which is the presence of the queen on the queen side, which is trying to put the white position under pressure, and trading off here would only take a step backwards for black, who is lagging in development, and you don't want to trade your most active piece when you're lagging behind in development. Okay, does that make sense? Did that summarize for you? Fantastic. Now, queen a4. Fabiano here cannot take because this, so he sacrifices his pawn, but he does this so these pawns are frozen. All right, the pawns sort of trip over one another. It's impossible to attack, and now Fabiano's back to attacking on that side of the board. However, Lanier has played top engine moves for 18 moves in a row. 18 moves in a row. And as Fabi said after the game, he was like, yeah, that was really annoying. He knew the whole line. Like, he knew everything. Which just shows you how hard chess is. You show up with a surprise guy who knows everything. Now, Fabi gave a line here during analysis after. They all kind of have to come for interviews. There was some very interesting line here, like b5, bishop c6, rook f8. This is what Fabiano gave. And this is equal according to Stockfish, but as you can see, white is on the verge of getting a very serious slapping around and, having to survive it. So instead of that, Fabiano plays f4. And, goes for this big attack, right? Knight f5. I think Lanier knew all the way up till here. This is kind of a little bailout. Yeah, and so here Lanier has choices. Fabi has sacrificed the piece, and he's threatening a couple of things. And what black can do is give up the bishop and no longer be under any attack. Black can give up the bishop like this and no longer be under any attack. And instead of that, Lanier is like, nah, I should have taken my bishop when you had the chance, stupid. I don't think Lanier said any of that, but I don't care for purposes of the video. I think he was like, nah, you can't have my piece back. Check. But he did get the, but the rook, okay. So Lanier gave the piece back, but got an exchange. We do the chess math. Black is up a point. Why is it equal? Because white's got a really strong attack. I don't really know why Lanier went for this. And it only goes from bad to worse, as he literally loses the game on the very next move. Now, the line here to win with white is insane. So the line is queen d7. This is the only winning move, I think. And the point is that after queen b6 check, queen b6, that's not a, oh my, what narcotics am I, what? I don't know why I said check. I think it's because the next move was check. So the line here is like this. And this is only winning for white because after queen f2, knight e5, check, king b1, there is, if you take on g5 here, there is queen d5 check and knight f7 check, and it's discovered check on the queen. However, after queen f2 check, or rather queen f2 threatening this, there is an even better line, which is knight h6 check, king h8, and the only winning move here is king b1, a waiting move. A waiting move. It's just a waiting move. That's insane. That's nuts. That's the only move. And if take, rook h7 is mate. If queen f4, rook g7, and now this, and there's no more checks. So Fabi missed that. All right, he missed something. He thought black had sufficient counterplay. He's back to square one, but he's still pressuring. He's putting a lot of pressure on Lanier here, and he's completely winning again. Fabiano is winning again. Lanier did not manage his time well. Fabiano just has to play the move f6, which in many ways is a very natural-looking move. But the follow-up is a little bit killer. It's g6, cutting off the queen. The game's over. If this, white plays queen g6, mate is unstoppable in a few moves. If white plays f5, trying to strike back, there is queen h4. With this defends this, game is over. So this is winning, just f6 and g6. It's not even that crazy, but Fabiano thinks he's winning another way, which is here. And the point is that if white gives up the knight like this, there is g6 with, again, two threats. It's actually very clever. The problem is, suddenly, white is the one getting mated. What? What? So now white has to stop mate, but he stops mate, and black just wins two pieces. And now it's two rooks for the queen. So Fabiano could have just won the game with f6, and he saw it, but he thought queen h4 was also winning. That's what he said in the interview afterward. And one of them was not winning. Fabiano here also brought up this line, which is very interesting. And this looks really good for white, but there's this move. And in an incredible, this knight is trapped. If it goes knight f4, there's just rook e4. If g6 looking for this, it's just a draw. There's no way to save the knight. If the knight goes back to e2, there is check here, rook f2. There's no queen h4 because this. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So Fabi misses f6 for this line, and this is just, he has nothing. There is no way to play here, and it's just perpetual. It's just a perpetual check. White's king is completely stuck. So Fabi, super close to the knockout. But I think it was just the combination of thinking he had two wins at the same time, and also his opponent was very low on time. Lanier had almost no time left, so Fabi rushed it, and yeah, he misses his chance. Our last two games, though, were decisive. So if you had the patience, to sit through three draws, thank you. This game got interesting very quickly. It was a four knights English with e4. I recently got slaughtered with this move at an over-the-board tournament. I like this move. It's an interesting one. You try to lock down that square and get a little bit of space. Bishop b4. Bishop b4 is a critical line, but bishop c5 leads to this very sharp variation where you get you lose the knight in the center. This is known as the center fork trick, and it's actually, knowing this with black is also very useful. So sometimes you'll get a position like this. And here, the best move for black is to take on e4 and get the center fork trick. It's a very common idea. Beginners really don't know this. It only works when the knight is defended with the pawn. But now little information there for you. But that's not what happened in this game. In this game, we had the different center fork trick. And this is a very crazy line where white has a really stupid-looking pawn structure, but somehow is completely fine. And I think the best move here for black is this move f5. I've seen this played by Levon, and this scores 20% for white, which is hilarious. Like, black wins 80% of the games. The point is queen f5, knight c3, of course, right? It's actually not lost. You have a3 and stuff like that, but it's very sharp. Instead of that, Mamidyarov plays a bunch of old theory, and I literally mean that. He played a bunch of theory from a couple of years ago. The position after here has been reached 10 times in over-the-board play. Black has never won. Ever. Now, there was a game, Carlsen-Caruana, which went bishop d3 and b5, and that was in the 2019 Isle of Man Grand Swiss. They drew that game. It was a very interesting game. But queen e3 is an improvement, apparently. And, yeah. So Mamidyarov plays a novelty. He plays a move that's never happened before. The best move here, according to Stockfish, is this move b5. Very crazy line. Queen a7 forks you, but bishop a6 wins for black. Because if you take, I guess the queen is trapped. Wow, queen c5. And black is apparently winning. Yeah. Instead of that, this happens, and now Hans just begins attacking. So because Mamedyarov played too slowly, it took him too long to play b5. Hans doesn't have to take. Apparently taking is fine, but he does this. And then look at this. He's just like, look at it. Mamedyarov's like, take my pawn. No. Take my pawn. No. Take my pawn. Okay, fine. So Hans sacrifices a rook. So he's down in exchange. Okay? Hans has given up a rook for a bishop and a pawn. Mamedyarov's not done. A5 on the board. Still looking for complications. Still looking for problems. He still wants to attack him over there. Hans is like, yeah, do your worst. Like, seriously. Who's attacking who? All right? Queen d4, very nice position for white if you really think about it. Like, if black plays a4 here, Hans is going to go here and maybe even king a3. As completely ridiculous as the move king a3 is, black has no attack at that point. So Mamedyarov's like probably like, wait a minute, where's my attack? Hans is like, I don't know, but give me your pawn. Just, I don't care where your attack is. Now b4. Mamedyarov must be sitting looking at this position like, this is ridiculous. And, you know, if Mamedyarov just sits there, here's what's going to happen. This. And Hans will win. He's going to win. Black has no play at all. So what does he do? Sacrifices the rook back. I mean, he's got to do something, right? King is a defensive and an aggressive piece. Rook back. Here. Here. Improving. If black plays c6, the d6 square is juicy for a long time, so he doesn't play it. And now we go for this endgame. And Hans is basically calling Mamedyarov's bluff. He's like, I don't think this is a draw. I don't think so. Queen endgames are notoriously drawn. But I don't think this is a draw. I think that I am winning. I'm going to use my pawns as a shield and walk up and win the game. Will he do it? This is crazy. He gives him the pawn. He just gives him the pawn completely. Check. Here. Queen f6. Doesn't take just yet. Doesn't take just yet. He wins the pawn. Jim wins a pawn. He's going to start pushing soon. There's c6. This is crazy. Hans is just straight up beating a 2760 rated player. That pawn's going to get to c7 pretty soon. There it is. This is nuts. Hans is completely winning. He pins him. He unpins himself. He blocks. That's it. Mamedyarov plays this move and resigns. Because I guess after king c6, that's just game over. The only way to stop is to keep giving checks, and the king will just run to safety. There's just no way. That game could have gone like 5 more moves. Hans Niemann just beat a 2760 rated player. All right, Hans Niemann needs to sit down for an interview and just not say the words, the chess will speak for itself. He might win the Singfield Cup as like the 60th rated, highest, I don't know what Hans's ranking is. He might be the 30th highest rated player in the world, 40th, I don't know. But this is nuts. Actually insane. I think this is the best win of his life, right, in classical. I don't know if it is, but it must be. Huge win for him. What a game. And as far as Mamedyarov's opening, did he just play a refuted line? Like, I think this line for black, I mean, refuted might be a stretch, but because Stockfish doesn't think that this is that much better for white. In fact, it thinks it might even be better for black at low depth. But only white has won here. Like, only white. It's been reached 10 times and white, so I don't know. Hans Niemann is in first place, though, tied with Magnus Carlsen, 1.5 points. Now, next game. Jan Nepomniachtchi Alireza Firouzja, the Catalan. Here we go, baby. Takes main line from Alireza, a6, knight c6, idea rook b8 and b5. And here there are 5 moves for white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, preventing this. The move that Jan plays, I've never seen. You know why I've never seen it? Because it hangs a pawn. And Alireza takes the pawn. And apparently, white has such active pieces that Stockfish thinks that despite being 2 pawns down, white is fine. Why? Well, because black has to give this pawn up. So he gives it up in spite. He's like, meh. At least you've damaged your pawn structure, good sir. And Nepo's like, Alireza, why are you talking like that? Queen moves back. And we have knight to e4. And black is just up a pawn. Like, if you just count, Alireza has an extra pawn here. So the move knight e4 is a novelty. Other moves have been played here, like a4, bishop b2. I mean, like some of these moves have been... Knight e4 is never happened. What is black going to do? Well, let's say he goes here, rook b1. Look at white's pieces. Everything is active. This is active. This is active. Like, what if black just doesn't let you take anything? I'm going to play rook d1. For the pawn, this is not worth the migraine. Okay, it's just not worth the migraine. And the bishop is coming soon as well. So Alireza decides, I'm going to play aggressively and kick you out in castle. Ha! And Jan's like, okay, who's stopping the move c5? And by the way, how are you ever developing? Alireza's like, active solution. Nope, I'm not trading anything. Active solution. Okay, we can trade, but we're gonna do it on my terms. Now my queen is active. And by the way, I'm offering you another pawn. And if you take that pawn, I might go here, I might go here, I might not even take back right away, which is just unbelievable. Black just can't move. All right, we have e5. And now, Jan trades the queens. And finally, he takes the pawn. So at the end of all of this, we have a rook endgame where Black has a problem. And his problem is the fact that the whole game he spent trying to get rid of the pressure, all right? Basically, the analogy I can give you is Jan in this game is like a mosquito, okay? And he's been flying around Alireza in the dark at night. You know that feeling when you wake up and you hear the mosquito in your ear? Top 5 worst feeling of all time, all right? Like being sick, you know, God forbid some other things, toothaches, heartbreak, you know, like losing a checkmate in 1 when you're up a queen. But a mosquito buzzing by your ear at night and you don't know where it is, you're slapping yourself. So Alireza, in the process of trying to get rid of all the pressure, was hitting himself, and he caused himself a few problems. And now Jan just has to very slowly continue to ask questions. He activates his rook. Now, with perfect play here, Black can defend. How does Alireza do this? He tries to get to this endgame, and he claims, okay, I'm gonna survive this. But rook a5, all right? Rook c6 back. Now, this is a pass pawn, low key. Okay, this is an even more low-key pass pawn because no one's ever going to hear from it, okay? So now Jan just starts pushing. Let's also keep in mind this is the 30th move of the game, 32nd move. They get 40 moves for the first time control, so it's very notorious to be low on time here, all right? Rook b6, here comes the king, here comes the pawn, here comes the pawn, here comes the king, here comes the rook back, covering rook c4 check, and now e5, all right? Rook c4, attacks the pawn, king back, e5. Rook c6. Jan has made 40 moves, which means he gets extra time, and the evaluation is +3. Where did Alireza go wrong? I don't have a damn clue. I don't have a clue. Remember how yesterday Magnus beat Jan, and we were like, what did Jan do wrong? The answer was probably come to the tournament and get Magnus in the first round. Like, honestly, I don't know. And now, Jan just stays patient, finally finds a moment to sacrifice this pawn, and just sneaks in with his king. This is the magic square. And then the pawn will go and get a red carpet. And slowly but surely, he gets to that point. The e-pawn starts going, right? Now you might ask, why didn't this happen? The pawn would have just gone. So, it takes 50 moves, but Jan just wins a brilliant game. A brilliant game. And it shows you the class that Jan is at. And to see the way he played yesterday against Magnus, it just ain't fair. Like, there's a gap at the top level of chess, and it's unreal, like, to witness. Because Jan played this game, it's like Magnus played this game against somebody, you know? If I put Magnus' name, you wouldn't even be shocked. It'd be normal, right? So, amazing game from Nepo, who bounces back from a first-round loss. It doesn't matter who's in first place, because they've only played 2 rounds, but Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen. Crazy. Chess is extremely boring sometimes, as we saw in the first 2 games, but can also be very exciting as well. I'll see you all for round number 3. Get out of here.